All right, we're back for part 3 and hopefully the final part of the Baby Girl album. I'm going to kind of skip around a couple spots. We're going to come back to the cover, but I went ahead and I put score tape on the backs of, oh, there's smudge on here. Better fix that. But anyways, I put some score tape on the backs of most of my paper pieces, so that way I'm not doing that on camera. I also went ahead and put my cover papers on, which are a little bit different than on this album. I didn't have enough of this paper, so on the one that I'm making today, I used this. I didn't care for that paper as well, so I'm doing the pink and the same thing on the back. All right, so let's do first this part here. Okay, we're going to come back at the very end and just add all the inserts, but I'm going to show you the other decorations. If you are doing this kit with me, you'll have this part already done. So that way you just have to glue that on there and then you'll glue this paper on. But if you wanted to know how I made this, I just took a piece of white cardstock measuring 5 1/4 inches by 7 1/4 inches. 7 1/4 inches, wow. I don't know where that came from. Let me start over. 5 1/4 inches by 7 1/4 inches. This pocket piece, I have a 1/2 inch border on 3 sides, so the pink piece actually measures 6 1/4 by 3 1/4, and I scored it a 1/2 inch on 3 edges, and then I attached it onto here, similar to the way we did this pocket, except that I put the bottom piece on the back of this. So that way, when I'm tucking things in, I'm not hitting that piece that's on the back. So hope you understand that. So anyways, this is all ready to go in here. But before I do that, I think it's easier to put this paper on here. I'm not a fan of wet glue, typically. I make a terrible, terrible mess with it. I don't know, maybe you guys do better than I do, but I do sort of like to use wet glue when I'm putting the pieces inside the pockets, only because if I use score tape or tape runner, it's hard to get it in here and maneuver it all, and then you end up like it sticks where you don't want it to, but whatever. So the wet glue kind of allows you to move it around a little bit. The trick, which I know, and I still always end up glopping it all over, but the trick is not to go all the way to the edge of your paper and not to use too much glue on the edges. But again, even though I know that's what you do, and I think I've done it correctly, I end up having too much. So sometimes I like to take an extra piece of cardstock after I've gotten this on and just kind of do this just on the edges and the corners. Otherwise, when I get it in my book, it seeps out. And again, it's tricky because you have to have enough, otherwise it doesn't stick. There's such a fine line. There we go. And it's already starting to dry. All right, so I'm just gonna tuck this in here and leave about 1/4 inch. And the reason I like to use the wet glue is now there's that wiggle room, and if it's in the wrong spot, I can shift it to where it needs to be. And I'm impressed with myself. I actually did that without making a horrible mess. All right, so now I'm ready to put this in my album. As you can see, I put score tape all along the outside edges, and then I did some in the middle. You want to get pretty close to those edges so that it doesn't start to pull up. And then we're just going to put that in there. I think I did it a little tiny bit crooked, but if it doesn't, oh, look at that. It actually is coming up pretty good. So I'm just going to shift it a little bit if I can. I don't want to rip. All right, let's try that again. I don't know if that's any better, but it's down. I'm not going to go to the trouble with score tape or undo on that because it's not that important. All right, so the next piece, and again on this album I have a couple pieces that are slightly different than my original sample. It's only on my album though because I'm making extras to have. I have several nieces that they're starting to get married, so I'm thinking they might be having babies sometime. Oh my gosh, that is totally crooked. Now that I'm gonna undo and fix because that one will definitely bug me. Don't you hate when that happens? See, it's not just you. It happens to me too. And this is one way or one time that personal preference for me when I'm just creating an album is to decorate the pages and then put them in the album. It's definitely easier to work with them when they're flat and not in the album. However, it's tricky if you're trying to do this as a class and duplicate my pages. And again, I should really let this dry a little bit, but I'm not going to. I'll just come back to it. All right, so this paper is so cute, isn't it? And I typically love baby girl things. Like I was so happy when I was pregnant. Well, when I was first found out I was having a girl, I was not happy because I wanted a boy. And then I remembered, ooh, I get to have Barbie dolls and easy bake ovens and everything. So then it became fun, and girl clothes are just so cute. So even though I have a girl and I am more inclined to be drawn to girly patterns and what have you, and as cute as this paper pack is, I love, love, love the boy version of this. I just think it's adorable. But this one's cute too. I love this paper. Echo Park, Carta Bella, they all make such beautiful papers, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Carta Bella and Echo Park are the same company anyway, which is why they're very similar. The quality is a good heavyweight paper, so that's helpful. Remember, after you put your papers on, to use your boner and push that down onto there so that it sticks good. All right, let's see this one. I didn't put my score tape on the back of this because I was doing everything in a hurry and I wasn't sure which side of the paper I used, and I was too lazy to look because I was doing it in a hurry. So I'm just gonna do this on camera, so my apologies. All right, let's see here. Helps to have natural fingernails to do this. If you have fake nails, or the S&S nails that are real popular, you probably struggle to get the backing of the score tape off. You can use the scissors or if you have a pokey tool, when I have just cut my nails, I use this and it peels it right off. Or same thing with the edge of your scissors. Another tip is sometimes it's better, regardless of whether it's your nails or the scissors, sometimes it's better not to go at the very edge, and I kind of go in like a ½ an inch and grab it, and it usually works a little bit better for me that way. So just a little tip for you. All right, this paper I believe goes here. This is another piece that the wet glue is a little bit easier to do, but I hate using wet glue, so I'm going to try it with score tape. It's just a smaller pocket, so it's not quite as cumbersome to do. So I think the score tape will be fine. And I often use a combination of score tape and just tape runner. I definitely like to, what I call anchor the edges, the outside edges that might get pulled a little bit more. I definitely like to use score tape on that. And then I'll usually use a tape runner in the middle section. All right, so this is just getting kind of tucked in there. All right, so now we have our pockets. All right, this page goes here. And I usually make my papers so that they are 1/4 inch smaller on both sides. So if this part that we're gluing it onto measures 5 1/4 by 7 1/4, then my paper measures 5 by 7. That makes it so that I have 1/8 inch border around all the edges. Sometimes when I'm looking at other people's scrapbook videos, a lot of people only do 1/8 inch difference, so it's just a little teeny tiny bit around the edges. I find it's trickier for me to cut and to line it up when I do that way, so I leave a little bit of a bigger margin on the edges. So that's up to you how you want to do that if you're making your own, though. Alrighty. See how I'm grabbing it here instead of at the very end? Can you see that? I go in about 1/2 inch. It usually pulls up easier. Sometimes when you're trying to get it at the corner, it doesn't quite work. So a little ways in. And it really does help if you have used your boner to burnish those edges in real good. Not the edges, the score tape onto the paper. It kind of like pushes it onto your paper better and it makes it easier to grasp. All right, let's see here. So this piece goes on here. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable doing these videos. If you watched any of my previous videos with this album, it was really my first time doing it. Not that I'm by any means practiced at it now, because I've still only done like 2 other videos, but I am feeling a little bit more comfortable with the camera. So this is going to go here. This is one where really if you're comfortable using wet glue, it's helpful to do this part with wet glue since you're going inside that pocket. So that way you can kind of move it around a little bit. But again, I hate wet glue, and I also do this quite frequently, so I have a little bit more dexterity, or I don't know, skill. I don't know what you want to call it. All right. So this goes on here, and I ran score tape in the middle, but I am gonna take some tape runner also. I'm just gonna flip this around so it's easier for me to work with. Oops, and I forgot to grab my Crop-A-Dile punch to fix those edges. I'll do that later. All right, let's see what was on here. These are tag pieces. I'm actually going to come back to that. These were from the 3x4 cut aparts. I have a bunch of them I cut up. You could put a different one on there if you want. So we'll come back to that later. Same thing with all these inserts were the cut aparts. All right, so this one. Okay, we're almost there, girls and guys. I don't want to be sexist. Maybe we've got a guy making this. Some of our Stampin' Up! Demonstrators are men, and I think that's pretty awesome. And some of the guys, or the people I should say, some of the people that do the demonstrator videos for like training videos that show how to use some of the products and stamping techniques, some of them are men, and I think that's pretty cool. All right, so this is going to go on here, but this is a piece, I magnetized it. It has a magnet in there. So you don't have to, it actually stays pretty good, so you wouldn't really have to, but since I did it on my sample, let's go ahead and do it. These were the basic gray magnet discs. They're just the real small, skinny, and they're getting harder to find. I had a real tough time doing it, but I think there's another brand I saw. One of my Stampin' Up! Demonstrators that I follow had a different brand. So there are different things out there, but this is the basic gray. What I did was I took a positive and a negative. So I pulled them out and I'm sticking them together. And then this has a double-sided tape on here. So I'm going to first put one in the middle. You don't want to go too close to the edge here because then your paper, your design paper, isn't going to cover it. So you want to go maybe like a ½ inch, and it doesn't matter. I'm not even, like it should have been over to the right a little bit more. That's fine. So you want to make sure that your magnets are together. And then when you put this on here and push it, now it should be in just the right spot. See that? What I like to do after I put the magnet on is I like to take a piece of score tape and just run it over top of the magnet on both sides. And I still have score tape all over the inside of this too, but if some of this score tape didn't land like right over that, it might like bubble a little bit. So that's why I put it right over top of the magnet, and that also ensures that it stays in place. All polka dot on the back. So this is going to go on here. And I'm going to flip it around so that way, the album that is, I'm going to flip around so it's, that flap is closer to my face and I can see what I'm doing. Alrighty, so this one goes up here. When it hangs off the edges, all you do is just push it back on there. And again, you could use wet glue for this part, but it's such a small, oops, it's such a small pocket. I don't feel that you need to. This piece, oops, I forgot to put my score tape on this one. So let's do that now. Uh-oh, ripped my paper. Can't tell, so it's fine. Sometimes when I just rip the score tape, sometimes it pulls off. Oops, there's my undo. It's almost gone. Hope I have another bottle. I'm sure I do. I usually keep a couple of them. I don't like to buy too many at a time because it seems like it evaporates if you don't use it, especially sitting in here. It's pretty close to a window and sometimes it just evaporates quicker than it should, or than I would like it to. All right, so we have our 3 pockets, or 2 pockets here, and it flips up. All right, we're getting there. I'm not going to decorate everything on camera with the stickers. On the insides, like all these stickers, I usually don't pop those up. I used to, because I'm definitely one that normally pops stuff up on, like when I do scrapbook albums or scrapbook pages, I like definitely use pop dots. But on the inside of my mini albums, I don't like to, because I find that it ends up on the edges, something always ends up grabbing it, and then it ends up getting boogered up and pulled off and everything. So I'll go over all that with you after we get our papers on though, and I'll kind of walk you through and give you any tips that I might have for that. I made my score tape a little bit too long on this edge, but that's okay. Let's flip that down. I don't think there's an up or down to this. Definitely want to make sure on this edge that goes into the album that it's pushed down good, because since it's on this section from doing this, sometimes this pops up. So even if I don't use score tape on the whole thing, on my pages, I always do these 2 edges. And then I might put tape runner in the middle, but always do the outside edge and the part that's going towards your binding. Okay, so this is the cut aparts. Okay, now this piece. So what I did was I started with just a piece of the paper. I use the cute little pink polka dots. And we're going to put that in first. And then I'm going to show you how I did this. So I'm going to move this out of the way. This is a pocket that opens up with like accordion sides. So that way you could stick memorabilia in there, and there's a magnet closure on this as well. I'm sure that there is more than one way to do this, but I don't know, this is how I did it. So this piece measures 11 by 4, and I just scored it so it folds in half. Then you want the flap part. So I took this measures 4, so I'm going to do 4 inches across and 3.5 wide. And I scored it, you can even do it 4 inches. So I think for some reason I just cut this different, but you could do it 4 inches by 4 inches and then just fold it in half here. That probably makes more sense. And then I'm going to glue this onto here. So we're going to use our score tape on the one piece. And I just used the corner rounders to do the edges. You don't have to do that, but I just liked the way that looked. All right, so it's gonna go up here, but what I like to do first is start with this piece on the front. And I fold it around the back. So it's only on this section here on the back. For the sides, now remember, when you have it folded, it measures 5.5 inches. So these sides are going to be about 5.5 inches, but I didn't want it to go all the way from corner to corner. So I made it 5 1/8 inches. All right, so we're going to put score tape on the 2 outside edges, and we're going to do it close to the score line, not the raw edge. But this is the 3/8 inch score tape, so it kind of fits pretty good in the middle there. If you're using a 1/4 inch, then do it close to that score line. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on this one. We're going to burnish the edges. I keep saying edges, not the edges. We're just burnishing the score tape on there. All right, so now we're going to fold it kind of accordion style. So if you fold it wrong to start, don't worry, because you can just fold it back onto itself the other way. But basically you just want to fold on each of these score lines. I'll show you that I'm doing it wrong. So I'm just doing it however. So if you do it like that, that's fine. But you're just going to fold it back then, so that when you go like this, the score tape is on the 2 outside edges. All right, so you have to kind of think about this. These are going to go one on each side, okay? And I always have to look at how it's going to work to see which direction. I think I want the raw edges, like this cut edge is going to go on the inside so that just the folded edges are here. Let me see if that's right. Yep, that's how I did it. Let me just see the other direction. Yeah, because if you put them in here, you're going to lose all this space because now it's attached to this. So, okay, so you definitely want to put so that the folded edge is even with here, and this raw cut edge is on the inside of your pocket piece. And I'm just kind of going in the middle from top to bottom. So now it's like that, see? There's a little bit of space from this score line to where that starts, and a little space from this score line to where that starts. Now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to do the same thing. So this is the sticky part. I'm going to fold this over so that I can see this scored line, and this score line is going to line up with the edge of this. See that? So the sticky part is here. Fold it back, and now glue that down with the edge. So when it opens up, it's flat like this. All right, now we're going to fold this in and fold this in, and very carefully this is going to get glued on there. I like to do both pieces at one time. So I take the backings off both. I push these down, and you are going to get some stickiness here, but you want to have it pushed down pretty close to this corner edge. And start kind of just push it down up here and fold it up. And then I'm just kind of pushing down as we go. So that way this piece lays flat. Sometimes when you do it, if it's not, if you don't like hold this accordion piece down as you go, sometimes you end up having a bubble on there. But this is the way it should look. If it's slightly off, you can just use your boner and kind of like fix it, so to speak, so that like you're kind of rescoring the line a little bit. Okay, so this is this piece. Now we want to put a magnet on here, and I would recommend doing this now rather than after you get it in your book, just so you don't forget. So I'm taking a positive and a negative, and I'm popping them out. And see how it just goes right to it. Taking the backing off. And again, you don't want it to be too close to the edge, or your paper won't like stick exactly right. All right, and this just slides off. We're going to leave it on there. I'm going to pull that off, and we're going to close this. So now it closes, or it's attached to the right spot. I'm also going to take a piece of 1/4 inch score tape right away, and I'm going to put a piece over each magnet. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll decorate this first. As you can see, I only put score tape on the top and bottom. I'm just going to run some tape runner on the rest. Okay, this is going to go on here. Same thing here, tape runner. Where my score tape is hanging off the edge, just flip it up on there, that's fine. And then just go over it real good. Just don't forget to take this backing of your score tape off the magnet before you put your paper down. So I like to do that first. All right, I'm gonna just add a little bit more. I did put some in the middle, but I'm gonna put some more tape runner on here also. All right, now we're ready to put score tape on the back. I'm going to close that. And then it's going to go in your album. Oh, we still have to do the cover, the shaker part. I'll show you that before I end the video. We're almost done. These make a great shower gift. I like giving a baby album and maybe some other picture-y type stuff together, or sometimes I tuck a gift card inside the album. New moms are always so busy and they take a lot of pictures, but they don't really know, you know, what to do with them. It seems like they always stay on people's phones. So this way they have a nice album. All they have to do is trim their photos and put them in. I always, whenever I give a gift like this, whether it's a baby album or sometimes I do like a wedding themed one for somebody that's getting married, I always put a note in it and offer to help them if they don't know what to do. Some people aren't crafty like we are, so I usually put a note in and offer to help them. And I did actually have a friend a couple years ago, take me up on it. She and her new husband came over one day with a stack of photos and their album that I gave them, and I went through everything with them and cut everything down and put pictures in it for them, and they were just thrilled. So, great gift idea. Okay, I'm not going to put all of these tags on camera. I'm going to come back to that on my own, but I will show you. These are the inserts. These measure 5 by 7.5, and they go in the top and in the pockets like this. If it doesn't fit in right, sometimes you just have to wiggle it. Sometimes it just catches on that seam on the bottom. So usually once you do it a couple times, I'm just going to kind of open it up in here a little bit. That's exactly what it's doing. It's getting caught on that little, remember that little hinge piece that we put in the bottom to seal up the bottom? It's just getting caught on there. All right. So let me just show you a couple things with the stickers, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the cover. As you can see, I just kind of put a few stickers on. Like I said, usually on the inside of my album, I don't pop anything up. I just glue them right down there. A lot of times, this one I didn't, but many times on the pieces that are like this, and I think I did it with this too. Nope, that one I glued down all the way, but this I left part of it so it doesn't stick, so that way you can tuck a picture kind of like underneath that. So all I do is I take some baby powder, I pull the sticker off the sticker sheet, I put some score tape on the bottom, and then baby powder rubbed across the top, and that, what I call, destickifies it. And then you can just glue it down there. So you'll see I did that with like this one. So that way you could tuck your picture up under. Same thing with this here. And like that. All right. So let's talk about the fun cover. Okay, I did this ahead of time for my friends that are doing this album with me. All I did was I made a frame, and there's a 3x4 cut apart that I trimmed down a little bit. I wanted this to be a little bit smaller, so I cut a 1/4 inch off, so it measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. I glued it onto a piece of cardstock that measures 4 by 5, and we're going to glue that on here pretty much in the middle. And when I say glue, I'm actually meaning score tape. Again, anything on the outside covers, you most definitely want to use score tape or wet glue if you're comfortable with that. Something besides just a tape runner, because the cover is what people are going to be handling. So you definitely want something that's not going to be falling apart. All right, so let's glue this on. And remember, this album, the cover paper is just a little bit different because I ran out. All right, again, you can get out your ruler if you want. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'm anal. However, usually my laziness wins and I just eyeball it. Sometimes I've gotten it all done and I'm like, oh my God, that's like really crooked. And then I'm trying to undo it, but usually it's good enough. I did get something gluey on there. All right, so I took a piece of pink cardstock. This is Stampin' Up's Blushing Bride, and it measures 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then I cut the middle section out. I left like a little bit more than 1/4 inch opening. If you have the rectangular die cuts, the thinlits, you can use both of them and make a frame, but I did not do that. I just did it by hand. Then I took a piece of the window sheet. Again, this is from Stampin' Up. You could probably buy like, I don't even know what they're called anymore, like overlays for, oh my gosh, I don't even know what it's called, but Staples or something might have something comparable, but I like the window sheet because it's kind of sturdy. This is much better quality than the window sheet Stampin' Up used to sell, but this is my favorite. So I just cut that a little bit smaller than the 3.5 by 4.5. Or 3 3/4. I'm sorry, it was 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. So my window sheet was just a smidgen smaller, and I glued that to the back of this. And then I used the foam strips or the foam sheets, and I just stacked it one on top of the other. I had done one with just the one layer, and then my sequins were getting stuck everywhere. They were just, it wasn't popped up quite enough, so I did a double layer right on top of each other. So we're going to put some sequins in here, and then this is going to go right on it. And I'm going to open it up just so it's on a flat surface. And I have just a little sampling of some sequins here. I'm not ever sure what to do so that the sequins tend to stick to this. If you can see in mine, it's still sticking a little bit, like there's a couple from Static Electricity. I've read only one tip, and I've got to really research some other suggestions. This is the embossing buddy that Stampin' Up sells to take away the static. I don't like doing this because it leaves, see that film on there? I don't know if you can see that. It leaves like that white powdery film. I don't like that. So actually what I've been doing is, and let me grab it, I've been using a dryer sheet, and it seems to do an okay job, but there's got to be something that's even better. But this is just a piece of bounce, and I find that if this doesn't leave the film like the Embossing Buddy does. So I'm just doing that real good. Make sure you get the edges, and that took away most of that discoloration. All right, so I want to be ready. So I'm going to take the backing off of my adhesive foam. I'm just going to set that there. You don't want to use too many sequins, but you want to have enough that it's in there. You're going to put them all right in the middle. But again, you don't want them stacked up too much, because if they're piled on top of each other, there won't be enough room for it from the space to move. So I'm going to kind of spread them out a little bit. This might even be too many, but we want it sparkly. All right, so just make sure that they're kind of like in the middle section. And then this just goes over top of it. How easy is that? Now, as I put this down, you might see some of the sequins suck up onto here from the static electricity. Hopefully that piece of dryer sheet helped. And I'm probably going to get my head in the camera. This is one of those things where it's better to be right over top of it. All right, so I'm just leaving a little bit of blue showing around the edges. Once I think I have it where I want it, I'm just going to push it down in place. And then I'm going to take my sticker that says Our New Arrival. And it has to come over a little bit. Now this one, because it's hanging off the edge, I'm going to later put this on because I want to de-stickify it first. So what I'll do is I'll get some baby powder, and I'm going to put baby powder all across it, but then I'm going to come back and put some tape runner or wet glue or something on there just to put it on the edge. So we'll stick that there for now. I don't want to leave this other edges sticky as we are going through the album, but that's what it would look like. So I'm going to pull this off just until I'm ready to do that. So here is your album. All right, and then you can put some stickers on here. I usually give the extra stickers to the mom to be, so that way after the pictures are on the pages, she can add extra little stickers if she wants. So there's a lot of different things you could do to it. Let's go ahead and, just so it looks a little bit more finished, we're going to, and I'm just going to use tape runner on this part. I used Stampin' Up! Colors for my cardstock. This is Rococo Rose, I believe. All right. I'm just going to put score tape on two sides, and then I'll use my tape runner. So I hope you enjoyed this album. I'm probably not going to do a video with the boy because it's done the same way, just with the boy papers. I usually just kind of set that there. I don't push it down until I get the other one on, so that way I can kind of make sure that they're lined up just right. Like, see, this has to go over. See, there's more space here, so I'm going to move this. Looks pretty good to me. And then we've got our other little things that can get tucked in here. And then I've got some of these that'll go in the other spots. Some of them are going to get glued onto here, and I think you get the general idea. So that's where I'm going to end things. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, or you want to make your own album from scratch with a different paper pack, and maybe you need some pointers or some help with something, by all means, just reach out to me. I'd love to see your comments on the link below, or the section below where you can comment. And I'll be back with some other things at some point. I'm gonna do some fun fold Stampin' Up! Cards, and I'm probably I'm probably going to do other mini albums at some point. So thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.